I turned 22 on a quiet Saturday morning in March, sitting at our scratched-up kitchen table in Cleveland, expecting nothing but hoping, just a little, that my family would at least acknowledge it. Instead, Dad shoved a small cardboard box across the faded Formica surface without even looking at me. "There," he said, his voice flat as week-old soda. "Your birthday gift." My sister Lila was already grinning from her chair by the window, that smug, knowing smile that told me she was in on whatever this was. Mom kept her eyes glued to her coffee mug like it held the secrets of the universe. I reached for the box slowly, my fingers trembling just slightly as I pulled the lid off. And froze. A one-way Greyhound bus ticket stared back at me. Columbus, Ohio. Departure, 3:47 p.m. That afternoon. The paper felt thin between my fingers, fragile, like it might disintegrate if I held it too tight. But the message was solid as concrete. Dad finally looked up at me, his grey eyes showing absolutely nothing. "Good luck out there," he said, as if he were doing me some massive favor. As if this was tough love instead of what it actually was, giving up. Lila snickered under her breath, barely even trying to hide it. She'd always fed off Dad's energy, turned his indifference into her own personal comedy show at my expense. Mom whispered, "Just take care of yourself, Jenna," and when I stood up and hugged her, I held on longer than she expected. Long enough that I felt her shoulders tense with surprise. Long enough that I knew she wasn't going to fight for me. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I didn't even ask why, though the question burned in my throat like acid. I just left. Silently. Because they had absolutely no idea who I actually was, or what I'd built behind the locked door of my cramped bedroom for the past 3 years. And only 7 days later, the truth would slam into them harder than anything they could have possibly imagined. Growing up in our house meant learning to be invisible. Dad believed in tough love, which was really just code for constant criticism wrapped in the excuse of preparing me for the real world. I wasn't focused enough. Wasn't practical enough. Wasn't ambitious like Lila, who'd gotten her real estate license at 20 and never let anyone forget it. Lila fed off his attitude like a parasite, treating me like an ongoing punchline to a joke only they understood. Mom tried to soften their edges sometimes, but she'd long accepted that her voice didn't change anything in this house. She'd learned to survive by staying small. They all thought I spent my nights gaming and wasting time scrolling through Reddit and YouTube. They didn't know that behind my locked bedroom door, the one with the peeling paint and the broken latch I'd fixed with duct tape, I was building something that would completely change my future. A cybersecurity AI startup called Cyphernova. I co-founded it at 19 with a guy named Ethan I'd met in an underground coding forum. We had no fancy office. No glossy building with a reception desk and catered lunches. Just laptops, energy drinks, late-night video calls, and an idea that grew faster than either of us expected. By the time I turned 22, by the time Dad handed me that bus ticket like I was trash he was finally taking out, Cyphernova was valued at $40 million. Nobody in my family knew. Not because I wanted to hide it from them, but because every single time I tried to share anything about my work, they'd interrupt with something about Lila's latest sale or shut me down with the same tired line. "Jenna, be realistic." So I stopped talking. Stopped trying. And I built quietly, in the dark, while they assumed I was failing. The bus ticket they gave me? They thought it was an ending. They had absolutely no clue it was just the beginning. When I stepped onto that Greyhound at the depot on East 14th Street, the driver gave me a sympathetic smile, probably thinking I was just another kid being kicked out, clutching everything they owned in a worn backpack. I took a seat by the window, 3 rows from the back, held my backpack close to my chest, and stared down at the ticket one more time. Columbus, Ohio. No return trip. No backup plan. No tearful goodbye. Except, I absolutely had a plan. My actual destination wasn't the dingy bus station in Columbus that was printed on that ticket. That was just a layover, a brief stop before I caught my real ride. I was headed straight to Denver, Colorado, where our team was preparing for the biggest announcement in Cyphernova's history. Our investors had finally approved something monumental, something we'd been building toward for months. The founders would be revealed to the public in a massive press event. Up until then, Ethan and I had stayed completely anonymous for security reasons. When you're building AI that can detect and neutralize cyber threats in real time, you make enemies. We'd gotten death threats, attempted hacks, Even a few creepy messages that made our legal team nervous. But now, it was time. The bus rumbled to life beneath me, and as we rolled out of Cleveland, past the rusted factories and the neighborhoods I'd known my whole life, my phone buzzed. Ethan. You ready? The world's about to know your name. I typed back quickly, my thumbs flying across the screen. More than ready. Another text came through almost immediately. Your family's going to lose their minds. I smiled at that, a small, bitter smile, and replied, That's the plan. The woman sitting next to me glanced over, probably wondering why a girl with a one-way ticket was smiling like she'd just won the lottery. I didn't explain. I just turned back to the window and watched Cleveland disappear behind me. 4 hours later, I was in Columbus, standing outside the station with my backpack and a duffel bag I'd stashed in a locker 2 weeks earlier. Inside that duffel was everything I actually needed: my backup laptop, a change of professional clothes, my Siphonova employee badge, and a folder of documents our lawyers had prepared. A black Tesla pulled up to the curb. Ethan leaned out the passenger window, grinning. Need a ride? I climbed into the back seat, and our head of operations, a sharp woman named Cynthia Walsh, turned around from a driver's seat. Welcome back to the land of the living, Jenna. How was the dramatic exit? Perfect, I said, buckling my seatbelt. They have no idea. Ethan handed me a tablet. On the screen was our event schedule, a detailed timeline that started in exactly 6 days. Press conference is set for next Friday, he said. We've got NBC, TechCrunch, Wired, and about 40 other outlets confirmed. The live stream's already got 300,000 people registered. I scrolled through the agenda, my heart pounding harder with every line I read. This was real. This was happening. Cynthia pulled away from the curb, heading toward the highway. Your family still think you're just some lost kid? Yeah, I said quietly. And let's keep it that way. Just for 1 more week. The next 7 days felt like living in a completely separate universe. While my family back in Cleveland believed I was figuring things out in some cheap motel somewhere, struggling to find work and probably regretting whatever choices had led me there, I was actually staying in a luxury high-rise apartment in downtown Denver that our company had rented for the core team. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Rockies. Early morning strategy meetings with investors. Catered breakfasts and working lunches and conference calls with our PR firm and legal team. It felt surreal, like I was living 2 lives simultaneously, and only one of them was real. Ethan kept our momentum going, handling the business side, negotiating with partners, making sure every detail of the event was locked down. I focused on what I did best: back-end architecture, product demos, and preparing the technical presentation that would show the world exactly what Siphonova could do. We rehearsed our talking points until they felt natural. Ran through security protocols. Practiced handling hostile questions from reporters who might try to tear us down. And every single day, articles started bubbling up online. Mystery AI startup reaches $40 million valuation. Who are the founders? Siphonova set to revolutionize cybersecurity. Public reveal coming soon. Founders to be unveiled live. Speculation runs wild. The buzz grew louder by the hour. People speculated endlessly about who we were. Some guessed ex-Google engineers. Others said a group of Stanford graduates. A few conspiracy theorists claimed we were actually a front for the NSA. No one, not a single person, guessed that one of the co-founders was a 22-year-old woman who'd built half the codebase from a cramped bedroom in Cleveland with peeling wallpaper and a space heater that barely worked. On Tuesday morning, 3 days before the event, I was sitting in our temporary office space, reviewing code, when Cynthia burst through the door holding her phone. Jenna, you need to see this. She turned the screen toward me. A tech news account, one of the big ones, with over 2 million followers, had posted a teaser image. Just a silhouetted outline of one of the founders standing in front of a massive screen displaying our logo. But it was my silhouette. My height, 5'6", not particularly tall or short. My posture, shoulders back, chin up, the way I always stood when I was nervous. My long braid hanging down my back. The comment section had absolutely exploded. Wait, why does that look like a woman? No way the rumors about the founder being 22 are real. If she actually built the encryption module, she's a certified genius. This is either the biggest surprise in tech this year or the biggest PR stunt. The story blew up overnight. By Wednesday morning, our event registration had more than doubled. The live stream was approaching 600,000 sign-ups. News outlets were calling non-stop, trying to get confirmation, trying to get interviews, trying to get anything. Ethan just stared at the screen in our conference room and said, his voice barely above a whisper, "Jenna, they're obsessed with you, and they don't even know your name yet." I should have felt excited. Instead, I felt exposed. But I also felt ready. On Thursday, day 5 after I left Cleveland, 2 days before everything would change forever, my phone buzzed with a voicemail. Mom. I almost didn't listen to it. Almost deleted it right there. But something made me press play. Her voice shook, thin and fragile through the speaker. "Jenna, your father's been saying you'll come crawling back within a month. Lila laughs every single time he says it. She's been making jokes about you living under a bridge somewhere." A pause. A shaky breath. "I don't know where you are or what you're doing, but please be okay. Please be safe. I know I didn't stop them from doing what they did, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, sweetheart. Just call me when you can. Let me know you're alive." The message ended. I sat there in the apartment's living room, the Denver skyline glittering outside the massive windows, and I just stared at my phone. Part of me wanted to call her back. Wanted to tell her I was fine, better than fine. Wanted to tell her that in less than 48 hours, everything she thought she knew about me would be completely shattered. But I didn't. Not yet. There was nothing to say until everything unfolded. Ethan found me sitting there 20 minutes later, phone still in my hand. "You okay?" he asked, dropping onto the couch next to me. "My mom called," I said quietly. "She thinks I'm homeless or something. Dad and Lila are making bets on when I'll come back begging." He was quiet for a moment, then said, "And Friday, when we go live, they're going to be watching." "Oh, they'll be watching," I said. "They'll watch because tech news has been everywhere this week. Because everyone's talking about Cyphernova. Because even people who don't care about technology are curious about who we are. And your dad's going to see his daughter, the one he gave a bus ticket to, standing on that stage." "Yeah." I finally looked at Ethan. "Yeah, he is." "How does that feel?" I thought about it. Really thought about it. "It doesn't feel like revenge," I said slowly. "It feels like release. Like I'm finally stepping out of a shadow I didn't even realize I was standing in." Ethan nodded. "Good. Because you're not doing this for them. You're doing this for you." He was right. This wasn't about proving anything to Dad or Lila. This was about finally being seen for who I actually was. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed in the guest room of our apartment, staring at the ceiling, running through every possible scenario in my head. What if I froze on stage? What if people didn't believe I was capable of what I'd built? What if the press tore me apart, called me a fraud, claimed Ethan had done all the real work? But then I thought about those 3 years in my bedroom. The nights I'd stayed up until 4 in the morning debugging code while my family slept. The weekends I'd spent teaching myself advanced cryptography while Lila was out partying. The countless hours I'd poured into building something real, something meaningful, something that mattered. I'd earned this. Every single second of it. And tomorrow night, the night before the event, we'd do our final run-through. Then Friday morning, the world would finally know my name. Friday morning arrived with the kind of crisp, clear Colorado sunshine that felt almost too perfect. I woke up at 5:30, showered, pulled my hair into my signature braid, and stood in front of the mirror in my room. The woman staring back at me looked different than the girl who'd left Cleveland 6 days ago. More confident. More certain. More real. I pulled on the outfit our stylist had picked out. A sharp charcoal blazer, fitted black pants, low heels. Professional but not stuffy. Powerful but still me. Ethan knocked on my door at 6:15. "You ready?" "As ready as I'll ever be." The entire team gathered in the main conference room by 7. The branding banners were already set up at the venue downtown. The stage was built. The screens were tested. The live stream infrastructure was locked down tight. Our own security protocols making sure nobody could hack the feed or disrupt the event. Cynthia went through the schedule one last time, her voice steady and calm. Doors open at 9. Press check-in starts at 9:30. Event begins at 10 sharp. Ethan, you'll go first. Company overview, growth trajectory, investor partnerships. Then Jenna, you'll do the technical deep dive and product demo. Then we open for Q&A. The whole thing should run about 90 minutes. She looked at both of us. Any questions? Ethan shook his head. I said, just one. What happens if I throw up on stage? The room laughed. Nervous, relieved laughter. You won't, Cynthia said, but she smiled. But if you do, we'll spin it as proof that even geniuses get nervous. At 8:30, we loaded into 2 SUVs and headed to the venue, a massive conference center in downtown Denver that could hold over 1,000 people. As we pulled up to the back entrance, I saw the line of press vans already parked outside. Camera crews setting up. Reporters doing sound checks. This was real. This was actually happening. We went through security, got our badges, and were escorted backstage. The energy was electric. People rushing around with clipboards and headsets, technicians adjusting lights, someone yelling about microphone levels. Ethan turned to me in the green room and asked, his voice quiet, "You ready to stop hiding?" I took a deep breath, let it out slowly. I think I've been waiting for this longer than I realized. I checked my email one final time before we went on. Nothing from Dad. Nothing from Lila. One message from Mom, sent at 7:43 that morning. I don't know where you are, but I'm thinking about you today. I love you, Jenna. I almost replied. Almost. But I closed my phone instead and slipped it into my pocket. At 9:55, a production assistant with a headset poked her head into the green room. 5 minutes, everyone. Ethan, you're up first. He stood, adjusted his tie, gave me a quick nod. See you out there, partner. Then he was gone, and I was alone. I could hear the murmur of the crowd through the walls. Hundreds of people. Maybe over 1,000. And online, 600,000 people waiting to see who we were. Somewhere in Cleveland, maybe sitting at that same scratched kitchen table, maybe in the living room with the TV on, my family was watching. Waiting to see what this mysterious Cipher reveal was all about. Waiting to see the founders. Waiting to see me. The production assistant appeared again. Jenna, you're on in 2. I stood up, smoothed my blazer, took one last breath, and walked toward the stage. The lights were blinding. That was the first thing I noticed when the doors opened and I stepped into the wing of the stage. Massive spotlight arrays, camera flashes going off like lightning, the enormous screens behind the podium displaying our logo in brilliant blue and white. Ethan was finishing his section of the presentation, his voice confident and strong as he talked about our growth, our vision, our partnerships with major corporations and government agencies. And now, he said, his words echoing through the venue, I want to introduce you to the person who built the heart of Cipher. The person who designed our core encryption protocols, who wrote over 60% of our code base, who saw what the future of cybersecurity could be before anyone else did. The crowd went silent. Every camera turned toward the side of the stage where I was standing. Please welcome, Ethan continued, the youngest co-founder of Cipher. The doors opened fully. A spotlight hit my face, bright and hot and absolutely terrifying. I walked forward. One step. Then another. My heels clicked against the polished floor, the only sound in the massive room besides the frantic clicking of camera shutters. The audience surged to their feet as I reached center stage, a wave of movement and noise and flashing lights. The display behind me lit up, massive letters filling the screen. Jenna Reeves, co-founder and chief technology officer, Cipher. The applause was deafening. People were standing, clapping. Some were taking photos. Others were just staring, mouths open, like they couldn't quite believe what they were seeing. I reached the podium, adjusted the microphone, and looked out at the sea of faces. And somewhere, maybe in Cleveland, maybe sitting frozen in front of a laptop or TV, my family was watching this exact moment. The daughter they'd pushed out with a bus ticket. The girl they'd dismissed and underestimated and treated like a punchline. Standing on a stage in Denver, being introduced as a tech innovator who'd helped build a $40 million company. I gripped the edges of the podium and began to speak. "Thank you," I said, my voice steady despite the adrenaline flooding my system. "My name is Jenna Reeves, and 3 years ago, I started writing code in my bedroom because I was angry." A ripple of surprised laughter went through the crowd. I was angry that cybersecurity felt like an arms race we were losing. Angry that every solution was reactive instead of predictive. Angry that we kept treating AI like a tool instead of a partner in defending our digital infrastructure. I paused, let that sink in. So I built something different. Something that could learn, adapt, and anticipate threats before they materialized. And when I showed that prototype to Ethan, he said something I'll never forget. "This doesn't just work. This changes everything." More applause. I launched into the technical presentation, walking the audience through our architecture, our algorithms, our real-world results. I showed them dashboards, case studies, testimonials from clients who'd integrated our system. I answered every question with precision and confidence, because I knew this technology inside and out. I'd built it. I'd lived it. I'd sacrificed everything for it. And as I spoke, I could feel something shifting inside me. This wasn't about proving anything to anyone anymore. This was about claiming my place in a world that had told me I didn't belong. When the Q&A session started, the first question came from a reporter in the front row. "Jenna, you're 22 years old. How do you respond to people who say you're too young to be leading a company of this magnitude?" I smiled. I'd say that innovation doesn't have an age requirement. Some of the most revolutionary technology in history was created by people in their early 20s. Age doesn't determine capability, vision and execution do. The room erupted in applause. Another question. "Did you face resistance as a young woman in tech?" "Every day," I said honestly. "But resistance taught me to be better, to work harder, to prove myself not just once, but constantly. And eventually, the work speaks louder than the doubt." More applause. More questions. More cameras. And through it all, I stood there, steady, calm, certain, and I finally smiled. A real smile. Because a week ago, they sent me away. Today, the world was welcoming me in. The event ended at 11:45. As soon as I stepped off the stage, I was swarmed, reporters asking for follow-up interviews, investors wanting to talk expansion, tech journalists requesting exclusive features. Cynthia appeared at my elbow like a guardian angel. "Jenna needs a break. All interview requests go through our PR team. Thank you." She guided me through the chaos, back toward the green room, where Ethan was already waiting with the biggest grin I'd ever seen on his face. "You absolute legend," he said, pulling me into a hug. "You crushed it." "We crushed it," I corrected. My phone was buzzing non-stop in my pocket. I pulled it out and saw the notifications flooding in. Texts, calls, emails, and right at the top, 3 missed calls from Mom. One from a number I recognized as Lila's. And one voicemail from Dad. I stared at the screen for a long moment. Ethan noticed. "Your family?" "Yeah." "You gonna listen?" I hesitated, then pressed play on Dad's voicemail. His voice came through, stiff, awkward, completely unlike the confident man who'd handed me that bus ticket. "Jenna, it's your father. I saw the announcement. I didn't know. We didn't know. I think we need to talk. Call me back." That was it. No apology. No acknowledgement of what he'd done. Just "we need to talk." I deleted it. Then I opened Mom's voicemail. Her voice was thick with tears. "Jenna, oh my God, Jenna. I'm watching you right now and I can't believe. I'm so proud of you, sweetheart. I'm so proud. I should have fought harder for you. I should have believed in you. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Please call me. Please." I saved that one. Lila's text came through a few minutes later. "So you've been secretly rich this whole time and didn't tell anyone? That's messed up, Jenna." I laughed, a sharp, bitter sound, and showed it to Ethan. "Wow," he said. "She's actually making this about her." That's Lila, I said. I didn't respond to her message. Instead, I called Mom. She picked up on the first ring. Jenna. Hi, Mom. She broke down immediately, sobbing so hard she could barely speak. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I should have stopped them. I should have stood up for you. I know, I said quietly. But I'm okay now. I'm more than okay. Where are you? Denver. I've been here all week. And you built that company? You really built all of that? Yeah, I really did. She was quiet for a moment, then said, Your father, he doesn't know what to say. Lila's been silent since the reveal. She just keeps staring at the screen. Good, I said, and I meant it. Are you coming home? I looked around the green room, at Ethan, at Cynthia, at the team that had believed in me when my own family hadn't. No, I said. I don't think I am. Not anytime soon. I understand. Her voice cracked. But I'm proud of you, Jenna. I hope you know that. I do. And Mom. Yes. Thank you for the voicemail this morning. It meant a lot. We talked for a few more minutes, carefully, tenderly, like we were rebuilding something fragile, and then I hung up. That night, the team celebrated at a rooftop restaurant overlooking downtown Denver. The city lights sparkled below us, and the air was filled with laughter and relief and the electric buzz of success. Ethan raised his glass. To Jenna. The best partner I could have asked for. Everyone raised their glasses. To Cypher, I said. And to everyone who believed we could do this. We drank, we ate, we told stories about the journey that had brought us here. And later, when I was alone in my hotel room, I pulled out my phone and opened my email. There were hundreds of messages, interview requests, partnership proposals, congratulations from people I'd never met. But one caught my eye. Subject, an opportunity. It was from a venture capital firm in Silicon Valley. Ms. Reeves. We were incredibly impressed by your presentation today. We'd like to discuss potential Series B funding for Cypher, as well as opportunities for you to speak at our annual summit on emerging technologies. Please let us know your availability. I smiled and marked it for follow-up. Then I opened a new email and typed. To info@greyhound.com. Subject, refund request. Hello. I'd like to request a refund for a ticket purchased last week. One way from Cleveland to Columbus. I ended up not needing it after all. Thank you. Jenna Reeves. Co-founder and CTO, Cypher. I hit send. Then I closed my laptop, lay back on the bed, and stared at the ceiling. 7 days ago, my father handed me a bus ticket and sent me away. Today, I'd stood on a stage in front of the world and claimed my future. Tomorrow, I'd wake up and keep building. And Cleveland, with its scratched tables and peeling wallpaper and people who never believed in me, would fade further and further into the distance. I didn't need their approval anymore. I'd found something better. I'd found myself.